Hey, what's up guys, KSQRL here. Today in this video, I'm going to show you how to set up a Docker engine on Raspberry Pi 4. Now we start up setting an Ubuntu server as an operating system on Raspberry Pi 4 and install the Docker engine inside the Ubuntu. I'm going to also show you how to download a Docker images and run them inside a container to see how it works. So what exactly a Docker stands for? The Docker is a tool for creating or deploying and running applications in containers. The Docker is popular among developers that speed up the development process and doesn't use a lot of resources. The Docker containers are extremely lightweight, especially compared to the virtual machines. Now, this feature is especially valuable if you are a Raspberry Pi user. Now, things like a JellyFin, Apache server, Tomcat, Node.js can be run inside the containers. And this way you can run in multiple services using a Docker engine. The only prerequisites for this video, you need a Raspberry Pi 2 or higher, so I recommend a Raspberry Pi 4 for high performance. Also, you need an external SSD or SD card to install an operating system. Now in my case, I'm going to use an SSD that speeds up the workflow. You also need an Ethernet cable to connect to the internet for the Raspberry Pi 4. Also, you need a decent high watt power supply for overclocking the Raspberry Pi. To install a Docker engine, we first need an operating system running inside the Raspberry Pi 4. You go ahead and open the browser and go to this website and download the Ubuntu server. Now we are going to use an Ubuntu server 2104 for the Raspberry Pi 4. Now if in case you are using a Raspberry Pi 2, download the 32-bit edition. Now next up, go to this website and download the Balena Etcher and install it on your computer. Now this tool helps us creating a bootable drive or SD card. Now once everything is done, connect your SSD or SD card to the computer and open a Balena Etcher. Then import the Ubuntu server image file, choose the target drive and flash the OS. Now once it's done, go ahead, eject the SSD or SD card and reconnect back to the system. Now by default, it's going to mount a system boot folder. Now if in case it won't mount, then using a disk manager tool on Windows computer, assign a drive letter to mount the system boot folder. Now inside the system boot folder, I'm going to look for the file called config and add these lines. Now this is going to overclock the Raspberry Pi 4 to the maximum frequencies. Now this step is optional for you. Now if in case you don't use any high watt power supply or you haven't set up any CPU cooler on the Raspberry Pi 4, I recommend skipping this step and do not overclock the Raspberry Pi 4. Now once it's done writing these lines, save the changes. And lastly, I'm going to add an SSH file to the system boot folder that allows us to communicate with Raspberry Pi 4 from the remote computer. To do so, highlight the address bar and type a cmd, then inside the command prompt type echo, right angle and SSH and press the return key to write an SSH file. And that's it. Upon booting the Raspberry Pi 4, the SSH will be enabled automatically. Now go ahead, eject the SSD or SD card and connect to it to the Raspberry Pi 4 along with add a power supply and Ethernet cable and turn on the Raspberry Pi. Now once the Raspberry Pi 4 has turned on, we need to find an IP address for communicating remotely. Now one of the easiest ways to find an IP address for the Raspberry Pi, I'm going to log into my Wi-Fi router and look for the client table. Now here you can see it named as an Ubuntu with an IP address of 192.168.0.11 along with the MAC address of the Raspberry Pi 4. Now we are going to use this IP address to communicate with the Pi through SSH on the remote computer. But before that, I'm going to go ahead and tell my Wi-Fi router to assign the same IP address for the Raspberry Pi 4 upon restarting. Now this way we can memorize this IP address of the Raspberry Pi and can easily communicate with it remotely. To do so, copy the current IP address of the Raspberry Pi 4 and also copy the MAC address of the Raspberry Pi and paste it inside any text editor. Now we're going to format the MAC address into a plain string by removing the colons. Now once it's done, inside your Wi-Fi router, look for a DHCP static IP configuration and paste the IP address and MAC address. Now this way the router reserves the same IP address for the Raspberry Pi every time it restarts. Now it's time to connect to the Raspberry Pi 4 using a remote computer. Now on your computer, open a terminal or command prompt and type SSH, Ubuntu, and the IP address of the Raspberry Pi and press the return key. The default username and password is Ubuntu. For the first time logging into an Ubuntu server running on Raspberry Pi, you need to change the default password. Go ahead and do it. Now once the password has been updated, reconnect back to the server. Now go ahead, open the browser and go to this link where you're going to find a step-by-step instructions for setting up a Docker engine on different platforms. Now anyway, I'm going to look for an Ubuntu and this will take me to this page. Now if in case you have installed any older versions of a Docker, it's always recommended to remove it by pasting this command inside the command prompt. Now in my case, I don't have to do that, so I'm going to go ahead, scroll a little bit, and you're going to see a list of commands to install a Docker engine. Now go ahead and copy and paste these commands one after another one inside the command prompt. Now for the platform architecture, Raspberry Pi 4 comes under ARM64. I'm going to go ahead and choose the ARM64 tab and copy this command and paste inside the terminal. Then type sudo apt update to update this source list. And lastly, paste this command to install a Docker engine along with a container daemon. That's it. Now we have successfully done installing a Docker engine inside the Raspberry Pi 4. You can type this command to see if the Docker daemon is running or not. Now as you can see, the Docker is running in the background. And lastly, type this command to add a new group named Docker. And once it's done, type this command to add the current user to the Docker group. Now this way you don't have to type a sudo every time to access the Docker command. Now if you type a docker -- version, this is going to show you the version of the Docker engine. Now once it's done, restart the Raspberry Pi 4 to effect these changes. Now let's see some of the commands of the Docker. Just going to go ahead and type docker run hello world and press the return key. Now this is going to tell whether the Docker is working correctly or not. As you can see, it says hello from Docker, which means Docker is ready to use. Now let's see the Docker in action. Now to see the list of images inside the system, type Docker images that are going to show you the list of images. Now you can search for any image using a Docker search and the name of the image. Now this is going to look on the Docker Hub and gives a detailed list of images. Now let's gonna go ahead and download an Ubuntu image by typing a docker pull ubuntu latest. Now this is gonna go ahead and pull the latest version of the Ubuntu image. Now to run any image inside the container, type docker run --name and name the container, then type -ti, which stands for terminal interface, and type the name of the image, and we want to run a service called a bash. Now this will launch the bash shell on the Ubuntu. Now as you can see, we are inside the bash prompt. Now to check the list of the containers running in the background, you can type a docker ps within a letter L and using a format attribute to print the list vertically. Now as you can see, the Ubuntu is running in the background. And lastly, to remove the Docker container, so first I'm going to go ahead and exit from the bash prompt, then type a docker rm and the container ID. Now this will remove the container running in the background. And that's pretty much it. This is how you're going to set up a Docker engine on the Raspberry Pi 4. So if in case you like this video, hit the thumbs up button down there and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and consider hitting the bell icon to receive the post notifications. And thanks for watching this video. This has been KSK Ryle. I will catch you in my next one. Bye bye.